Hello, Michael here with another Michael's Guitar Reviews. Here's a different one, an unusual one, one about which I have quite a lot to say. It's of course a Hofner, and this is a Club bass guitar. These were manufactured originally in Germany, 1960s. The models continued on and off over the years, and this particular one was made in China. First thing you notice is it's quite an interesting looking guitar. Very nice colour. I like the colour anyway. Of course it's a hollow body guitar, so it's very light in weight as far as the body's concerned. The neck obviously isn't hollow, so you do get a little bit of movement down to the side as you would expect. Well, quite a few things to say about this one. When I received this guitar, it was because the owner was concerned about it wasn't playing very well and it was buzzing an awful lot, and I quickly found out why that was. We'll go into that in a moment. Let's just have a quick look overall at the guitar, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics that led me to get this guitar and to have to do some things to make it a little bit better. First of all, a nice interesting looking headstock there with the Hofner logo, and on the back we have 4 open tuners. These are very sort of basic standard type tuners. They work, they're not great. One of the things I will refer to in a moment is the overall finishing quality of these guitars, the build quality, the quality control if you like. And we'll have a look at something to do with the tuners. The nut is cut to be spaced reasonably well. However, it is a little bit deep on the G and the D strings, and just about right in terms of depth on the A and the E strings. The neck is a D profile, I would say, just bordering on a D profile, a little bit chunkier than some guitars. The back of the neck is a reasonably glossy finish. Colour is nice, I believe it's maple. On the front we have a rosewood fingerboard, normal position dot markers, and it's a set neck. In other words, it's been glued to the body or fixed to the body. It's got a rather nice book matched back to it there. You can probably just about see that. Book matched being that the 2 sides are a bit like a book being opened, to being split and then open to make the pattern rather attractive. And there is a raise to the back as well, so it is actually arched, give you a little bit more space inside. The front is of course arched as well. We have, going down to the back, first of all we have this trapeze type tailpiece, a little bit sharp just here I have to say, and a bridge that we'll come back to and talk about in some detail in a few moments. A couple of pickups there, and they are fed to the controls, which themselves are worth mentioning. I'm just going to show you the way that the controls have been labelled or lettered. Can you see that? They use interesting period style rotary knobs for volume. Both of these are volume knobs, one for each of the pickups. And then we've got the slider controls. The first of the slider controls says rhythm at the top and bass a little bit lower. The second slider control says bass on, and the one beside it says treble on. These have very interesting characteristics that we'll come to in a moment. A rather attractive multi-layered scratch plate there, a little bit flimsy, but it's quite long I suppose, so there will be a little bit of movement, although it could be anchored just about here. Jack input at the bottom, and of course the strap button, as you'd expect. The edges are quite nicely finished. They've got this rather lovely cream binding around the edges, and the overall feel of the body, or the finish of the body, is very pleasing to the eye, as is this little Hofner logo just sneakily put there on this upper bout. Now, Let's go back and say something about the overall quality control of this guitar. I mentioned earlier that when I got it, it was because it was buzzing. And it's not surprising, because when this left the factory, it wasn't very carefully attended to. I'm going to start at the top. The first thing I'm going to mention is the way that those tuners have been put on. If you have a look at the next clip, you will see that they're actually wonky. They've not been put carefully together at all. Totally inexcusable. These are factory made guitars. They should be able to be put together a little bit more consistently, but clearly this one hasn't. Moving on to the neck, one of the reasons this guitar was buzzing is because there was a back bow to the neck. So in other words, the neck wasn't just too straight, because of course we don't want it perfectly straight. It was actually bowing slightly backwards, very, very slightly, but there was no relief. So when you press down the 17th fret, you would expect to have a bit of clearance here. There wasn't any. So as soon as the string contacted the top of the fret, it would buzz. That's been rectified simply by taking off the cover here and loosening the truss rod. In other words, taking it to the left-hand side when looking this way. In other words, you're looking at it this way now. The adjustment on the Allen key would be that way to loosen the truss rod. This will relax it and allow the neck to take on more of a forward bow. So instead of being a back bow, which was partly causing the buzzing, and rather than being dead straight, which we don't want, we do want some relief space here, it's now got a microscopic forward bow, which is what it needs to have. Secondly, we have here an adjustable, fully adjustable bridge. So it's adjustable by the use of these knurled nuts at the side, either side. The bridge can therefore be made higher or lower. It is a floating bridge, so it can be moved backwards and forwards when it's not under tension if you want to alter the distance of the strings in order to get the intonation more accurate. This one's now in the right position. Each string sits upon a little string saddle. When I got this guitar to have a look at, the string saddles were pretty much flat. They haven't been properly cut in order to enable the string to sit inside a recess. Rather, they were sat on top of these tiny little metal fragments here, which allowed some lateral movement when the string was played. So I've had to take the bridge away and cut a little groove just to correspond to where each of the strings sits, so that it's got a home to locate itself in. You'll be able to see that in the separate clip that follows. Now, what about these controls? Well, it took me a little while to work it out, but basically this control here controls that pickup. This one controls its partner. So if you haven't got either of them on, nothing will happen. Turn that one on, you've got more of the bridge pickup. Turn it off. Turn this one on, you've got more of the neck pickup. So as you would expect, a bassier sound. So we can select either or both of these pickups by using these tone controls. The fun starts when you begin using these slide controls, because if you're not careful you can completely cut out everything. So you'll be part way through playing and all of a sudden no volume. I'll show you what that means by just selecting, hello, what do you want? This is a dog that seems to quite like, well, being around. Hello. French Bulldog. Anyway, Jojo, she's called Jojo. We'll just try and ignore her for the time being, although that's often very difficult. Whilst I continue. First thing I'm going to do is select the control for volume, which is closest to the bridge pickup. So we'll get that, and then I'll just simply operate some of these controls so that you can see how they switch on and off and how they vary the sound. We've got them all at the moment switched this way, and then I'll select them in different configurations, just using the bridge pickup. The other one is completely off anti-clockwise. Here we go. Let's get this treble switch and push it away. Now the bass switch pushed away. Oh dear. You've got to have one or the other of them on. Oh. When the bass one is switched off, you get nothing. Even if you switch the treble one on, nothing. Bring that bass one back again. Okay, we're back on. Now let's get that rhythm switch from solo to rhythm and back again. So what do we take from that? Well, if you're using only the bridge pickup, you must have the bass selected. If you don't, you get no volume. I'm going to bring them all the way back again now this way, turn off the bridge pickup and turn on the neck pickup and see what happens this time. Off with the treble switch. Oh dear. Now that just demonstrates that on this pickup the treble switch disengages everything. So it's got to be on. Let's just try again, and this time I'll disengage the bass pickup, the bass slide switch. And this time the rhythm switch going that way, away from solo. Still a bit of buzz there, isn't there? Now let's try it with both pickups on. So the volume for both is fully on. I'm going to bring all of those selectors to the off position and we'll see what difference that makes. I'll just alter the rhythm switch to rhythm from solo. And now we'll bring the bass fully on. And now let's bring that treble switch into the on position. Cancels everything. I don't know about you, but I think this is a slightly illogical system to have a switch that kills everything, regardless of whether you've got one or both of the pickups on. It seems a little bit strange. It could be that that's a fault in the wiring. Given the overall quality control of this guitar, i.e. the fact that the tuners are not put on with any form of care, that the nut has been cut too deeply on the G and the D strings, that the bridge saddle pieces are very, very small. There's hardly any clearance between the top of them and the wood on the bridge. And also the fact that they had no little groove in which the string could sit when I first got the guitar. It suggests to me it's rather poorly put together. And that, couldn't they just have had a little fixture underneath there, a screw? Overall, it's a nice looking guitar. There's very limited tonal variation. You get volume, you get either bass on or bass off, treble on, treble off if you're lucky, solo on, rhythm on, whichever, but not a lot of variation really. But I have to say, it's disappointing. It looks nice. Fur coat and no knickers, as they say. It actually looks nice. But does it do the job? Well, if you want limited sound range, a lightweight guitar for occasional playing live, a smaller feeling scale length, smaller scale length, shorter scale length, is probably okay. But it's disappointing when you compare it to a better quality bass guitar. Overall, it's not very good really. For the cost of these new, unless you particularly want one that looks like this for aesthetic purposes, if you're really wanting a reasonable working bass guitar, there are others out there that would do a better job, particularly when it comes to overall quality control, which is disappointing on this one. This might, in fairness, not represent all of them. There might be some really good ones, but here we are, one example with a number of failings. The tuners not being put on with any kind of care, the cut of the nut being too deep on the G and the D string, the neck being in a back bow, suggesting it's been tightened too much, loose pick guard, no real cut on the string saddles. Disappointing, I'm afraid. But you've got to try a few. You never know, there might be some good ones out there. Maybe some of the earlier ones are better. Be interested to hear what you've got to say. So, this is Michael, Michael's Guitar Reviews. I always say this, and I say it sincerely. I love it when people watch this channel. I love it when I get constructive comments and feedback. And I really like it when you subscribe. So please subscribe, it's free, no catches, just helps us to grow the channel, get the guitars out there to more people. In the meantime, happy playing and thank you again for watching. Bye for now.